We're live. Welcome to the Monday Mashup. I am Josh Copel, not your host. Today's host is Will Slickers. I'll let him take it from here. Yay!
Hey, Will.
Why are you guys throwing me in like this, man? I've been watching too much Shark Tank, and now I'm getting literally thrown into the sharks.
Good. We know you're an army man, so always ready.
Yeah, sure, always ready.
Carry me through this, Will.
Yeah, well, I'll just start off by asking you guys how the last week has been, and maybe like one key takeaway you've seen, whether it's an article, a video, or just something you've experienced with your podcast, your guests, your side hustles going outside of like consulting and doing other things. One key takeaway. And since Josh threw me the mic, I'm going to throw it to you back and let you go first.
Terrible. Wow. My God. It's just, every week is just so weird and so crazy and so different that it's like, I think for so many of us, it's like the great blessing and the great curse of our life that every week is just so incredibly different from the last. News on my end, I have partnered with a company called In-House Delivery. And we are trying to make the future of third-party delivery first-party delivery. I offer unique insight because I'm actually a member of the hospitality industry, an active participant. So I've been working with them to help hone the message because the product itself is perfect in the way that it enables you to like utilize your staff using their technology to be able to dispatch and deploy your team. And so now we're just honing the message so that it resonates.
I'm guessing a lower commission model than like Uber Eats or Grubhub or no commission.
It's $99 a month and $1 delivery. So it's like dirt cheap.
Wow.
It really
like
is.
we were talking about
we saw it just based off the tentative numbers, because in order for me to get into this, I wanted to see a side-by-side comparison. So we looked at like a few of their current clients, and it's like a 25 to 50% savings.
Wow.
Like
that's huge.
Just off the bat, which is incredible.
Yeah. Wow. That's like, we were talking about that last week and how unsustainable it is in the sense of like the independent, small, restaurant. Even like I don't know, maybe you can give me a better idea, but like if you were keeping Pru and Proper open and were you doing this like delivery model, do you think it would be sustainable for that type of like cuisine?
No, man. I mean, to be honest with you, so third-party delivery did make sense when it was 10% of our total sales, but it looked like, it felt like free money. It looked like we were losing money, but it felt like it was free money because it only constituted 10% of my total sales. But like as you see that ratchet up to 40%, 50%, 70%, 80%, when you're looking at an average net profit for a full service restaurant of 6%, and then you see that you're paying 30% in commissions, there's just no way that that's sustainable. And the real pain in all of this is that when you look at these public filings from these third-party delivery companies, they're not making money. The restaurants themselves aren't making money. And the customers of Uber Eats and Grubhub and all of these platforms, they don't enjoy the nature of the service because it functions well as a marketplace. But as far as like a utility to actually deliver you hot, fresh food in the way it was intended, it fails miserably. So
damn, that's interesting.
Hey,
I think the most interesting thing to say, Josh, the most interesting thing to say is that when you look at the accounts, these big companies, you can find them all online. There must be investors in all this that has been thinking, especially big VCs now thinking, this is it. We piled enough money in there. And you see the mergers like acquisition across Europe between Just Eat, some of the big players they're trying now to deliver Uber, to do some mergers or something is happening in the market. They're already buying up a lot of smaller aggregators. It's game over when you have to buy each other up to acquire market shares.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think there's this very strong market for that, and I think there's a lot of operators that is hungry for that solution. Deliveroo is 35% in the UK if you start today.
Yeah, I mean it's right around 30% here. In the Washington State and California markets, they've capped it at 15%. But what they've done is they said, okay, it's only 15% in commission, but there's this transaction fee.
Yeah.
And we have a service fee that we're not sure you were aware of. And then there's going to be a monthly fee that's just a flat rate. Don't worry about it. You'll pay that as well.
Yeah, the pickup fee.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like, my whole experience with OpenTable, and not that it was negative, but, you get used to living off the teat of the marketplace that you're attached to. Like it's your only funnel for new business. And I think the restaurateurs, and I'm sure hoteliers as well, are begging the question, like, what do I need to delegate and not worry about anymore? And what do I actually need to bring in house? Because like you look at third-party delivery customers and like, those aren't your customers. Those are their customers. And so you're paying that commission every time they dine with you. If that's an Uber Eats customer, that's not your customer. And how do you get those people off platform? So that was the question that led me to this company that actually led me to joining forces.
Super.
Well, it makes you question, like, is the mainstream, like, not like we all know, like growing up, like, don't be mainstream. Like nobody wants to be, you don't want to be like everybody else. You got to be different. Well, begs the question, like, is the mainstream stuff like Uber Eats and Grubhub and all this other stuff, I'm questioning is if like the sustainability of the customer side, like $30 for a normally a $10 meal, like how long can, like, obviously unless you're some rich mofo, like how can you sustain to continue to order off that platform for a burger?
You can. In my opinion, there needs to be more transparency in this whole thing. Michael, Sean, I know you can back me up on this. Like OpenTable is a marketplace that masqueraded as reservation software, when there actually needs to be a complete separation of the two. And it's the same with third-party delivery. Like Uber masquerades as like a delivery infrastructure, but their greatest value is as a marketplace. And so if you're able to parse those two things out and just have basic reservation software and then a marketplace if you need help driving traffic, and the same is true for delivery, what it does is it changes the restaurateur or the hotelier's reliance on these services. You look at Airbnb as a great example. Like it's a marketplace. And so because you could get the infrastructure on your own. But it was, what was it you said last time? Well, it really resonated with me. Something to the effect of, we tell people all the time that you are an independent. What is it? You're not an Airbnb.
It's your property on Airbnb, not an Airbnb. Like, they don't clean your toilets. You do. So
right.
Yeah.
And I think that distinction is becoming more and more relevant in these times.
Yeah. Damn. No, that's really good. I love it. Well, not that this isn't a good topic, but I think we just move on to Michael and have you bring up your key insight, maybe something that you've learned or biggest takeaway from the week, and then we'll keep moving around the globe until we get to topic of choice.
Well, that's such a good question, Will. I was thinking while Josh was talking, it's moving so fast. Actually, one of the things I've seen, which it's really positive. I think it's really positive to see the industry. I'm working on a project where we are looking to dive into digital transformation across the sector with a different partner than Hospitality Mavericks. And then I actually work on a separate project where we're going to put together a new executive team. So the founder have learned that being in the business is not the right thing, and he wants to set the team for the future, and he doesn't think that he has the skill, or him and his wife don't have the skill to move on. And they want to sell at some point, and therefore they know they need to create a business, not just having a paycheck. So it's quite interesting they come back with that. But to combine that with looking into that research, there was one trend that's starting to emerge, is that the way we operated is and have changed. The skills that's needed to run hospitality go forward is much more focusing on business acumen and also digital marketing skills. And it's all centered around that the old top-down industrial model we talked about last time, the project waterfall kind of thing, the eagle flying over the hospitality business is disappearing, and actually they are looking for new ways of doing things. And that was confirmed by me as well, that I saw last week quite a big progressive operator called Honest Burger. It's probably the most progressive burger chain in the UK right now, went out and said that decision power now has to go out to the restaurant managers. So therefore we are changing the people in the middle to mentors or coach, operation coach or mentors, and therefore they were looking for new people, new profiles. They couldn't find that within their existing operation. So as we talk about GameChanger thing, there's some really interesting things going on here, and it's quite interesting being part of that. And I know Josh liked this book as well. It's called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman, and I've had a lot of conversation the last couple of weeks, conversations with business leaders about how they start to set their executive team around that theory. In that book was actually about that you need to have a visionary to think the big crazy thoughts, but you also need that integrator to put it on the ground and make it happen. And you need to think about your culture and how you actually build a team that's much more agile and much more startup mode than before. So I think that's like a really interesting trend. I can't say that's a trend to stay, but it's something that's popped up the last 2 weeks. And one of the things I was really thinking positively about last week, that because I think that's where it starts. We need to organize how we work and lead our people and our organization before we can do all the other things. It starts with that and ends with that. So yeah, it's one of the things I observed in my life. And then I think I had another one. We had a chat the other day, Will, on my podcast. That was a very honest chat. So there's something to look forward out there when it comes out in a couple of weeks' time.
I actually had a really good time. It was interesting to share information I don't normally share. So just like personal backstory. So yeah, it was good. I'm excited. But to move it on to Australia, who's what time is it for you right now? You having a good
8:21.
Good morning?
Ooh,
yep. Nice.
Thanks for introducing me, Will. Hold on.
Of course. Nice to see you, Sean.
That didn't go well. We wanted to do that for the last 20 minutes. I think things are a lot different here in Australia, right? Like I know where you guys are from in America and the UK. You're going through some very challenging times, second and third waves and that kind of stuff. Here in Melbourne, we've been through the second wave, which was really, really tough. Now we're reaching the other side, and it's largely going pretty well. So well, in some respects, that it's a challenge to find certain staff to be part of restaurants, especially chefs. So it's an interesting time for the industry and to understand like how to manage and run their businesses moving forward, and what the challenges are going to be with not a lot of international travelers coming in and working in Australia under visas or under permanent residency and that kind of thing for the next foreseeable future. We're a bit different here in Australia in that we are an island, and it's a lot harder for like the want for people to travel sort of 14-15 hours and come and live here for a period of time is probably a bit less than if it's in Europe or if you're in America. So I've been doing a feasibility study for a major dessert brand at the moment, which is looking to get into retail for the first time, and it's probably it'll probably work out to be a $3 or $4 million Australian spend if they choose to do the venue that we're proposing for them. And it's been interesting as we were just talking about delivery. Like as part of this model, I'm talking about order at table, which you guys know the company that I'm part of with that, but it's part of this feasibility study, and getting people's head around something that's new, something like order at table, where it can save people, it can save brands money, it can increase basket spend, it can mean you don't have to hire as many team members to do that sort of medial job, connecting job in between, is quite different for people who have never seen that, to get their head around and educate them. So it's probably a learning experience for me at the moment, is to take people who have never done a retail concept ever before, venue, bar, restaurant, whatever, and get them to a point of like, okay, we really love you to spend X amount of dollars, which is a really sizable spend to do a concept which you've never done before. And I'm going to add a style of service which you might have only experienced a couple of times, but I know is going to be beneficial. So that's been interesting. So I think the Australian market is recovering quite well. As I've said to you guys as a group and individually, like the rubber's going to hit the road in sort of March, April next year, when a lot of the furloughed sort of government assistance schemes come off for people in the industry. They're starting to taper off now, and then we'll really see the lie of the land. But it's sort of it's definitely positive here, and it's getting better. And I think, things like automation, things like native delivery are going to be the way that it's going to evolve and change for sure. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing at the moment. Will and team.
Well, Sean, can I ask you really quick? Because I asked this question in the Facebook group, GameChanger Facebook group that we're in. This is for everybody, and then we'll get to Adam. But I want to know, do you think the hospitality industry, hotels, restaurants, vacation rentals, like hospitality as a whole, you think we're ready for the wave of opening, like the amount of influx and like everyone's been pent up for months to almost a year now, that at the point of, it's been so pent up that once things are open, once the vaccine is down and like the lockdowns are not restricted anymore, are we going to be ready? Like, you're already talking about like you're not having the right amount of staff. So that's just with a light opening in Australia. What would happen to the point of like, we go back to like 2019 numbers,
There's a lot of variables there. I think largely not with the amount of team they have at the moment. I think once government assistance comes off for people who aren't working and don't want to go to work, once that slows, I think they'll want to go back to work. So I think that'll correct itself somewhat. But no, like, I mean, we've now seen probably 4 weeks of like being open somewhat. So I always thought when we come out of lockdown, it would be a 6-week kind of excitement period, and that would bring us into mid-December, and then you'd have Christmas parties and, some offices going back and having Christmas parties before they finish the end of the year and then taking some time out. And then it's going to slow. Like, then you'll have, January 1 and excitement around that. And then we head into a deep, obviously a pretty hot summer here, where it's just going to change the game. So I think a lot of independent venues are really readdressing their opening hours, like what really makes them money, all those kind of things, and taking a really slowly approach to how they recruit back their team and that kind of stuff, which I think is a positive for the industry. But there's a lot of people who are a lot of venues who are on the fringes, as we would all know before this pandemic started, of being profitable and having a business which was actually operational and solvent, and like they're not going to last past March. Because people are gonna. It's obvious that people are saving money at the moment. They're not spending a heap of money, and I think that's largely going to come off.
Interesting. What about you guys? Before we'll just go to Adam. Adam, what's up? What's new?
That's going to be the question that we talk about. I don't know about in Michael and Sean, but after the turkey stuff was done on Thursday, Christmas exploded in our house. So trees, lights, everything. It's crazy. Last week was interesting. I had a really good conversation with a founder of a startup who wants to parse out I didn't sign an NDA, so I think I can talk about this. Who wants to parse out the amenity spaces in apartment buildings and large homes and sell them individually, or rent them individually? As kind of think as like the Airbnb or the Uber for amenity spaces. And I thought it's a really interesting idea, and we've got a lot of legwork to do on this to see if there's a market out there for it and just how to implement it. But I'm always amazed at the way that people find something to sell or to insert themselves in between a business and a guest. And I don't mean that in a negative way in this sense. It's just that there's so much air in the system still that people are still coming to the table with great ideas and great ways to push the industry forward, and ways that businesses can make a little bit of extra revenue. I think it's really encouraging in spite of everything that's going on in the industry right now. I was also on the STR Secrets podcast last week, and the episode came out, I think today. No, a shameless plug there. But the guys on the show asked me a really interesting question that I've been thinking about ever since I answered it. And it was, if I could hire somebody as my right hand today, what qualities would I be looking for in that person to help grow the business or whatever the needs were? And I really had to think about that for a second. And what actually I came back to is a conversation that Michael, you and I have been having, and I think we're going to have more of next week, about good to great, and the idea of level 5 leadership and having people on the team that are conscientious and caring and interested in the people that they work with and the people that work for them. And I've been thinking about that a lot over the last few days, and how I think that we talk about what is it going to take to get out of this. I do think that when hospitality businesses start to come back after this pandemic, there's a level of internalizing what we've all gone through and how we want all of this to unfold in a positive way going forward. And that really is going to require a level of conscientiousness and self-awareness that I don't think many in the industry truly have. I think we've talked a lot about it over the years, and a lot of people like to, say that they have those qualities, but when the rubber meets the road, there's a lot of self-interest and self-preservation that goes on. I think this is very different now. We need to start thinking more holistically, and a rising tide lifts all boats. That's kind of where my head's been at the last few days here.
Dang. It's insightful. It's good to.
That was a damn good question.
Yeah. I was going to ask a question regarding like the overall self-reflection, because you just brought it up, Adam. Like, if you could, have someone to be your perfect right hand, like what would the qualities be? And that like not only makes you think about the other person and what you need, but like it really comes back in internal flow of, how can I be a proper leader to effectively have this right hand do what it needs to do properly in order to be an effective right hand? Like, we both have hands, but we all have that time where like your left hand's like doing one thing. You're like, why am I, like, you're trying to multitask and do all these things, and you're kind of like losing control. You're not very coordinated. So how can you like use self-reflection in order to coordinate properly with yourself, the brain, or the heart, or whatever, to have an effective right hand in this industry, or in general, just like with our businesses?
Do you want me to go?
I'll ask anybody. Yeah, anybody.
I think we've all hired a lot of people in our time. So that's, I think what I did in my early career of hiring people was hire people who looked and sounded like me, right? And the one thing which I've definitely tried to do the last 10 years is hire people that don't. And that a person who challenges me respectfully, who's brutally honest about decisions that are being made with myself, usually in leadership roles for that period of time, has been really important for me, other than just having yes people around me, like to deliver the message and execute on things, which is important at lower levels. But if I'm to have a right hand, excuse me, a right-hand person, they need to be not the total opposite, but there needs to be a lot of differences for me in sometimes personality and sometimes how they would look at a situation, as long as we're sort of the same on value set and communication and that kind of thing. Like, I think that's probably the thing I look for in a right hand or a left hand person.
But it's a brilliant question, Will. It depends on if you are hiring one person or your leadership team, I would say. Because if it was just the right-hand man, I would find out I know what I am, but I would find out if I didn't know. If I was you out there running a business, I ask myself, I am the visionary? Do I set the direction? Do I get ideas very quickly? Do I get very passionate about the purpose of the business? But when it comes to that day-to-day running of the business, that's not really me. I don't really like spreadsheets. I don't really like to manage and delegate and keep everybody in the same role. Then I will probably look after the integrator if I was the visionary, and the other way around. And the integrator is the one that loves to do it all the day-to-day. And as Sean said, it's so important that it's somebody that doesn't look like you and talk like you, because then you're just going to get a copy and nothing's going to get done. You're going to be in the same place in 12 months' time. And then, of course, you need to have patience with that process. It's not going to kick in. It's very difficult if you're a founder of a business to take somebody in. But it's also okay to be a founder of a business. I had that conversation on Friday with somebody. I said, and that's a pure integrator, but not a visionary. And that business needs a lot of visionary thinking right now. So it's okay to hire a visionary, and you're the integrator, because you like to do the spreadsheet, you like to do all the operation bit, you come from an operation background, but it's okay. Then hire in some game changer. Either hire one in or hire a group of people in that can challenge your business. So that's how I would look at it. I will find out what I'm actually myself. And then, of course, again, it has to be value fit and culture fit and all that. But again, I will really look at that one that will irritate you as well. Because if you don't get a bit of conflict in there, no innovation will happen. But it has to be healthy and respectful conflict, of course.
Yeah, that's interesting. Adam, what's your thoughts on, because I maybe not even your thoughts, what was your answer?
I've worked for organizations that have been laser focused in what it is they're trying to do in their mission, stay true to what they do. There's no deviation, regardless of good times and bad times. And I've worked for organizations that are schizophrenic, that don't know what they are. And every day something is different, right?
Yeah.
You have, and that literally coming from the top, where things change. And I think I'm missing something.
Sorry, the word schizophrenic really got me. I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, I know. Probably not. Not a PC word to use. In any event, the point is that I think, for me, I tend to strive in an environment that is more knows what it is that they want to do, what they want to achieve on a long-term basis, and is willing to shift gears as they need to, as they go through whatever the situation demands. But if they could stay true to, or disciplined, I guess, in the direction that they're going. And so that would be somebody that, I tend to be an operations person. So, the visionary person is great, but that vision, it can't go all over the place. You still have to kind of, I believe, stay with what is the long-term goal of what you're trying to achieve. And then you allow me to get you there. Like we used to say, there's a lot of roads to get to, when I worked at San Francisco, there's a lot of roads to Petaluma, but as long as you're going to Petaluma, then, and that's your end destination, take whatever road you need to get there.
True. That's a good point. Josh, you've been awful quiet as the main host originally. So
please, this is day 2. It all really kind of speaks. We all interview a lot of people. I just interviewed Ari Weinswig from Zingerman's. It's a $50 million deli. $50 million. And the guy's story is super interesting. He and his business partner sat down 11 years after opening the deli, and his business partner says, "We're doing really well. I want to open a bunch of these. And he basically explained that the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth version of these things is always shit. It's always a watered down version of the original. Mm-hmm. And his business partner said, well, I want to grow. How do you want to grow? And what they did was they sat down and they created a 15-year vision, right? And he says it like right at the top of the show. It releases this Friday. But he says, people walk up to me all the time and say, hey man, I really like your plan. And he's like, it's not a fucking plan. It's a vision. It's where we're going, but we don't know how we're going to get there. But and you guys have all spoken about it, but it's about, you determining what this looks like once we're there. And then it's not like, maybe the universe does provide to a certain degree, but for those that aren't willing to bank on the universe, what a vision does is, and you see it really clearly in his business, is it informs all of the decisions that you make day to day, which fulfills the vision. And you make different choices. Like they decided that rather than they own a community of businesses, but they didn't start most of them. Their employees did. Their employees said, hey, we have a great training infrastructure here. Maybe we should teach it to other people. And they were like, awesome. We don't want to do that. Do you want to do that? And they're like, yeah, cool. They have investment strategy to get it done. They roast their own beans. They have their own coffee shop that they're producing their own coffee. They have a bakery that was born out of one of the guys that worked at the deli said, we should do our own bread. We could probably do a better job. And then that evolved into its own thing. They have an ice creamery, which turned them into being chocolatiers because someone out of the ice creamery decided that, they should do chocolate as well. And out of the creamery, they now manufacture artisanal cheeses. And so you look at this deli, which is now a $50 million conglomerate, right? And he's an anarchist in belief. And people turn to him all the time and say, man, I love your empire. And he's like, I'm an anarchist, man. Like, this isn't an empire. This is a bunch of different people doing things that they're passionate about that all feed into the other businesses that we have. It's a community. And I'm going to take that all the way back around again and say that, if as an owner, as an operator, you can be that visionary, that all you have to do is find people that share a similar vision and then give them the power and the authority to execute their own version of that within your ecosystem. I walked away from it super inspired because there's no way he and his business partner could have created what they created, right? They had ballots that shared an overall vision and then execute from there. It's crazy.
But the interesting, I know about that business. I read a lot about it because what is interesting with them is that they, from the start off, it was about putting power out to the front line. And that's what I talked about before. You can see now there is people looking at this middle layer of management that might not have been able, maybe because of lack of communication about the vision, but it's definitely something that's blocked the organization and haven't made it entrepreneurial enough. Because that's exactly what he created with that organization they created. He created an entrepreneurial environment. And they said, if you want to go do that, we can help you raise the money. And then you go and make your own decisions. And we will be mentors for you. And I think that's a great inspiration of how you can actually build a community of businesses still, instead of an empire owned by one person. And everybody can win within that. But it's so interesting that, it's power to the front line. And amazing things happen if you give people the ability to do things.
I think it's also a great opportunity and very timely to talk about vision or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And the fact that it takes balls to say, this is where I want to be in 15 years. This is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want my business to look like. This is how I want my staff to feel. Yeah. It is a lot easier to jump into the scullery and wash dishes or greet guests at the front counter than it is to sit down alone and decide definitively what your life is going to look like. It takes courage to say, I want to make this much money, and have it be a scary amount of money, or to say that this is what I want my life to look like, and then hold yourself to that.
Mhm.
And if there was ever a time for everyone to sit down and do that, this is it. We all speak collectively every week and individually all the time. And, we've all spoken openly about that and the importance of that, because without a clear vision forward and without having the courage to say, this is what I want my life to look like, your life will be determined by external forces that are outside of your control. I'll get off my
On the last note on the vision bit, it's great to have a vision, but again, I don't know what they did in Zimmerman's, but some of the organizations I looked into that have been really good at cementing that vision is the way of actually articulating their beliefs and values. If they did that through, they had a book, or the people at the Honest Burger ones, or you have the Breakfast Club, and you can see how they hire now. They send out a book to people and say, here's our beliefs. Just don't come to the interview if you don't believe in this.
I can actually drop into the group. I'll drop the vision. I think it was their 2009 vision statement, which they wrote 15 years before. Yeah. And then I think they have a 2020 vision statement as well. Yeah. I'll drop those into the group so that people can check out links to those. It's a great like outline to follow for yourself.
Yeah, I just got super pumped. Like I don't even need coffee anymore. Damn, that's so good. Shoot, dude. I'm sorry for everyone like who's listening and heard that scream, but that's so good. It's just like speaks volumes right now. So that was. I don't even know what to say. That was great.
You'll hit 100% of the targets that you don't set for yourself, right?
Sean, you got a mic drop sound effect on that Roadcaster of yours?
I haven't got that.
There you go.
Josh is just breaking shit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You lost a bit of control there, Will. Now, can you see that? That's the problem. That's the problem with independent people,
It's so crazy, man. People talk and they just blow your mind with like the things they say. And like I wake up every day thinking, man, I've got it all covered. And then you'll have one conversation, your mind is just blown, and you're like, well, I guess today's a good day to start from scratch. And that's how I was at the end of that conversation. I was just like, my God. Yeah.
How I feel right now. It just made me like we'll talk a lot more on like the back end of stuff, but I just like been really focusing on like the self-awareness part right now. Like recently just really diving into like where's the value in what we're doing, like on a day-to-day, like what I'm doing today, tomorrow, all week, what did I do last month, like really evaluating that and like finding the data behind it and see, is it actually valuable to me, or is it valuable to the audience, or is it valuable to my clients, X, Y, and Z, like really owning into that. And what you just said, like setting that vision, and we've said it multiple times. I know Adam and I even said it 3 years ago when he was first on my podcast, was like talking about the destinations there. As long as we're going that way, the roads really can vary. And then waking up and having a conversation like that, and that just shapes the road. Like that just gives you an automatic right turn. And you're like, crap, I wasn't expecting to go this way. Like I was going to go straight, or I was going to do a little, nice scenic route through the country. But no, I'm going through, rush hour traffic and just bumper to bumper. It really just wakes up a lot of the self-awareness part. So I think it just really resonated with me, because now it literally makes me want to go back to the drawing board and be like at square zero and realize like the fluff, like what's the bullshit and what's not the bullshit, and like how can I just cut it out,
Well, it's scary. Like it's scary to write down, I want $10 million. I want passive income of $250,000 a year. I want this many locations. I want, because like as soon as you've written it down, it's real. Like it's something that you're going to have to go back and reference and live with. Say either I met this expectation that I created for myself, or I haven't. And that's, that's the bigger part of the conversation is the fear in managing the fear and disappointing yourself more than anyone else. it speaks to the reality of the restaurant industry, which is, we were all full of shit for a really long time. And we all talked about how great it was and how well we were doing. And, oh my God, business is so good. And, we were just buying ourselves more and more problems and propping ourselves up with cash advances and credit card advances and all of these other things, asking our employees, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you cash your check tomorrow instead of today? Like, these are the realities of our industry, regardless of whether we're talking about the hotel side or the restaurant side. And the only way we're going to get through this is by unequivocally coming up with a plan that works for us, works for our team, and then executing at that level. The compromises that I have made in my life have never served me.
Yeah. Well, can I ask then, since we're a game-changing group in hospitality, this is what our focus is on, and we're talking a lot about like self-reflection and the destination, the vision. What I guess we can all and go in a circle from Josh, Michael, Sean, and Adam, or Adam and Sean. What's one thing, whoever tunes into this live or the replay or whatever we do with this content, like what's one thing you think we can do as game changers in any sector to implement this type of accountability, this self-awareness, this like drive of legitimately evaluating our industry and internally?
I'll go first. Write it down. Like, write it down. Hold yourself accountable to it. Read it every single day. When you look back at old books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, that tracks, how Andrew Carnegie became Andrew Carnegie. It all comes down to the same thing, which is your professional path either starts and ends with the choice that you make to call the goal, right? Just like Babe Ruth when he used to point.
Oh yeah.
Like, it takes courage to say that, because I'm sure he missed a lot, but every time he made contact, knocked the shit out of the ball. And so, I think that you have to write it down. I think you have to decide on it, look back, evaluate, make sure that it's right for you, and then work towards it every single day. But it makes it easy because then you can look at it every day, look at the opportunities that are afforded to you and say, this will get me closer to that or it won't. And then you're able to decide based off not a moving target, but a static one. I'm done. I talk too much. I know. I'm sorry. Everyone listening, I talk a lot.
No, I love it.
Good.
I want to add to that just briefly, just because I am personally going through this right now, like struggling with, am I doing too much? Because like in the beginning, I've been saying, well, this is the main goal. This is the main funnel. How do these all connect? Kind of like that deli, they have an ice creamery, a chocolatier, a bakery, like they do all these things, but they tie together for a purpose and for a community and for like something really valuable. But I'm struggling with that now. Like, is this media company or is this or is that, or is this too much? Is it aligning up with the end goal? And I think just not with writing it down, but like constantly having like, Michael and I talked about this on the Hospitality Mavericks podcast, was just having a constant like mentor, an advisor, somebody that I can be like, hey, you see an internal perspective. You know me too. Like, you know me when I'm not podcasting, when I'm not talking about vacation rentals, when I'm not doing anything involving hotels or hospitality. What do you think? What's your thoughts? And so I think that's been pretty key and important with me. Like, and something like this group, I talk to you guys almost daily. So just being able to have that ability to have trust. And Josh, the whole reason why you started Full Comp, transparency in the industry. We need to stop telling each other everything is great when it's not. And I can tell you, like, that's what I've been just going with personally right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it comes a bit from what you just said, Will and Josh. That it comes from one of the things that's gone wrong, and often goes wrong when it goes south, is that you forgot to turn up pro every day. And how do you turn up pro? And it took me a long time to find out. That was actually all the boring stuff. It was all your habits, your morning rituals, your evening rituals about what you're doing. So give an example. What I do myself every morning is that get the kids out of the door. Then it's 7 minutes to 10 minutes HIIT exercise and meditation. It's a cold shower and then I'm ready to start the day. And I review my plan before we start the day, and that plan is connected to what just talked about, the big plan. And that's where every week it's about moving 1%, not 10% or 20%. If I move 1%, I've been successful that week. And it's a bit like Zimmermans. They consistently every day worked on that business because they had a very clear vision of where they want to go. And celebrate that, because you can't win 10% every week. And then in the evening again, reflect again. What wins did you have? And what did you learn? Not what went wrong. What did you learn that day? And do that reflection. I've definitely seen that make your confident muscle and your energy muscle stronger. I'm not saying it's always easy. I'm not saying there's days where, it's not every day I want to do that. And some days, maybe I don't do the HIIT exercise, or I don't do, and I actually feel a couple of days after, the performance level drops. Then it's back again, doing it again, and you will drop off, but it's actually more and more times you come back and you get into that habit. You just see things becomes easy in life, and incredible things comes, and you attract things you wouldn't expect because people can see you are consistent. Yeah. So I think if you're asking yourself if you're doing too much, if you're struggling to be consistent in doing it, then you probably have to turn the speed a bit down. Less is more, but done better.
Damn, I love that. Less is more. I'm writing that down. Less is more, but done better.
You get some nuggets today, Will. Good.
Yeah, I will.
What a good show.
I'm going to send you this afterwards, mate.
I was gonna say, I don't know if this is a live session or more like a therapy session for me. Gosh,
Adam, you can go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. What's interesting is that there's a thread of a similar message across everything here today, and it's been about discipline. And if you guys listen to Jocko Willink, he says discipline equals freedom, and that is true in just about every sense of life or everything that you could ever do. Whereas if you have the discipline to stick with something, or to stay with a vision, or to put the 1% improvement plan in place for yourself every day, if you stick with that, that will create space in your life where you'll be able to achieve your goals, but then you'll be able to move on and do some other things. It's a really powerful statement. But the thing that I really wanted to kind of get back to for the purpose of the question is, and maybe to answer it a little bit of a different way, is it's if you are a person that complains about the fact that you're not where you want to be, but you haven't taken any steps at all, or you've taken one and it didn't work, and so you gave up, or maybe you took two and it didn't work, so you gave up. If you're that person, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and I mean, truly ask whether or not the path that you're on is the one that you want to be on. I think about this a goal that I set for myself early on in my career, where I wanted to be the general manager of a Fairmont hotel before I was 40. And I remember making that goal when I was in my early 20s, and I got there. It happened. I was about 38 when it happened, but I eventually got there. And a lot of interesting things happened. First of all, once you achieve a big goal that you set for yourself, then you're sort of like, what am I going to do now? I don't really, okay, so I have this big goal. But another interesting thing was it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. So that's probably, maybe we can talk about that next week. But the point is that was a large goal I set for myself, and I stuck to it. And it literally took me like almost 20 years to achieve it, but I eventually got there. And having that North Star and knowing all the time that that's what I was going to work towards, and everything that I did in my career led towards that ultimate goal, gave me a sense of purpose in what I was doing. I didn't complain about when things got tough. I didn't complain about when I got derailed. You just refocus and retool and get back on the track and keep pushing forward. Now, I'm not saying you need a 20-year goal, but if you've got, to Josh's point initially, write down the big crazy thing and stick to it. Don't complain when things just don't go your way, because if you're working on a long enough time horizon, those little blips will look flat along the way. Ultimately, you get to where you're going. Anyway, I talk too much too. So, Sean, I'll throw it over to you.
Oh, that was great. I love the sunrise, the analogy. So that's good.
Cool. So I'll say 3 things that I've done. So probably the most important thing I did was around this time last year, I started seeing a psychologist every month, and that was really important for me because it was really obvious after it was pointed out to me that I needed to see someone completely outside of my circle who wasn't connected to me, make me understand what I was thinking, what I was feeling. So it made me even more self-aware because my 2 biggest superpowers and challenges when they're not under control is my self-awareness and my empathy. So I just needed to keep that in check by having conversations with someone who didn't know me yet and wasn't connected, and there was no emotional attachment. So that was really important. Second is the last 2 months I've been journaling every single day. So I do that every night before I go to bed. And that's largely based on the positive things that happened that day and what the challenges were and, what I can do about it tomorrow. But what I'm looking forward to more so, it's more of a hopeful thing rather than I suppose, a criticism kind of thing. And the third one is that I'll exercise every single day in some way, shape, or form. So it may be like a 10-kilometer walk. That may be a HIIT class for 30 minutes. But it's important that happens at some point of the day. Otherwise, I feel a bit not myself, and a bit not lazy, just flat. So those are probably the 3 things I do to keep a positive mindset as much as I can, which is a big challenge. And I think going back to what Will said before in regards to doing too much, like I'm definitely on that hamster wheel at the moment of probably trying to do too much, but we'll pare it back for 2021. It'll be good. Yeah. That's it.
Love it. Josh, I don't know how to end these things. I love it too much. So you're muted,
You're
Josh.
on mute, Josh.
I knew that, guys. I was pantomiming.
What are you new to this? Like, come on,
that was my performance.
I was gonna say you've been podcasting for a while, Josh. You should remember to unmute.
You know what, Will?
I'll never mute.
I would like to end the show by saying this. The last time I interviewed Will Slickers, we did half the interview without me doing one thing, which was pressing the record button.
I've done that for a whole podcast before. Yeah.
We got about halfway through it, and I was like, shit. Yeah. I stopped in the middle of the sentence, and I was like, you're not gonna believe this, bro. Nightmare.
Yeah. And that was when I was on COVID orders in a hotel room, just like hunched over my computer, just like in a dark room, just like recording this podcast. And I was like, oh, we didn't record. I said some great stuff. Just kidding. But
we did some great stuff, and we got none of it. None of it.
So it's okay.
In the second round of that was trash. We ended up just throwing away the podcast. And we did a whole new one, started fresh.
Just redid. Yeah,
I did. I actually did that to a podcast guest the other day. It's not that I forgot to record. It's that I was like, hey, I did a really bad job of interviewing. Can I please interview you again? So,
hey, self-awareness. That's good.
Right? Mm-hmm. Begging helps. All right, guys. It was a pleasure, as always, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
That's been great, guys. Thank you so much.
Until next week. Let's have the planet still here.